Namaste, everyone. Namaste. Welcome to Book of Life, the last one of August. Ready to have some fun? This is a good one. They're all good. They're all good. So today we will be at fourth degree lesson 20, the Gleanings of a Mystic. So before we begin, we'll do a little invocation just so that we can assimilate these blessings and this energy. So go ahead and just place the tip of the tongue onto the palate. Be in a nice receptive pose. We fully release all unauthorized connections, front and back, to the great architect of the universe, Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, to all of our spiritual teachers, our spiritual elders, and Master Choa, to Buddha Padmasambhava, to the Circle of Seven, to Robert and Earlyne, to Burton Bigelow, Master Astara, Kuthumi, Lord Rama, Lord Zoser, to the Astarian hierarchy, the Lord Yehoshua Bar Miriam, the Lord Christ, Holy Mother Mary, Lord Kuan Yin Buddha, Lord Gautama Buddha, all the great ones, our higher souls, our oversouls, our celestial guides, our angel guides, Sanat Kumara, the solar logos, the universal logos, and the causal logos. We thank you, thank you, thank you for these divine blessings. May we be a channel through which thy holy ones approach the world. May we be a center for the radiation of thy power. Teach us to travel light that we may better gain the heights, break the bonds that bind. Teach us to give ourselves entirely to thy service, to attune ourselves to thy will. Teach us to lay down the small personal life for the greater cosmic life and to love with the love of God. In full faith, Om Tat Sat Om. Okay. Gleanings of a Mystic, fourth degree, lesson 20. In Gathered Gleanings, Burton continued to give general teachings, gleanings of a true mystic, which he shared with us. True soul progress can only be attained through the rhythm of life on both planes, the comings in and the goings out. The coming into the world of matter to strengthen all aspects of the soul through the challenges offered there. The going out to the inner life, the better to test the mind powers toward the mental challenges over here. On the earth plane, you learn how to become involved in action on all levels, experimenting in the world of matter, using the energies with which human beings make a better earth world. On the higher planes, one settles into creating via study and reflection, spiritual aspiration, and soul growth. What is the underlying need to incarnate? One world does not offer all that a young soul needs. A soul needs a coming and a going into and out of both realms until one has gained a certain level of mental and spiritual attainment. After reaching this level, there is no further need to incarnate in the world of matter. Those who have experienced misery, loneliness, poverty, illness on the earth plane are quick to declare that they never want to return, but after a passage of many years on my side, they experience a yearning to live another mortal life, to face the challenges that life represents, to take one's place as a builder among souls in the midst of world affairs. Astarians, coming under the assistance and care of the masters on the higher realms, will go forward blessed, whether in physical form or in spiritual form, whether incarnated or in between incarnations. They can be sure that if they lived lives of loneliness on earth, they will be led to mates and friends on the inner realms, whose auras will blend harmoniously with their own. There will be no more heartache for them. They can be sure that having learned the importance of mental, emotional, and spiritual advancement, Their stay on the inner planes will be filled with progression as they move further along their path. Therefore, Astarians, walk under a canopy of blessings, whether incarnated or between incarnations. The mortal world offers to the soul the challenge of science and art, unity with nature, the chance to work on the next level of progress on all aspects of life, and many souls often yearn to return. From the inner realms, one can view the accomplishments people on earth are attaining, and the inner call to be a part of such attainment is strong indeed. Hurrying after things. People on earth often find themselves spending too much time accumulating things. People create artificial needs and wants. You imagine so many things to be important in your lives, needless things. You set the pace of your lives at a speed which will enable you to provide yourself with them. You give your hours, days, years, striving to possess things that are unnecessary for a successful life. And with all this striving, there is little time to become quiet and think. Why is a frenzied life spiritually unprofitable? If you could do so, such thinking, becoming meditation or prayer, might lead to a recovery of memory from the past. To daydream, to think, to meditate could bring a total recall of other lives and knowledge gained. Bringing such knowledge forward could enable one to more successfully create a better life. Yet many people hurry and scurry like ants, eternally chasing the superficial. On the inner planes, our mundane labors ended, we have earned our vacation. Thinking becomes important, meditating becomes imperative. Or dreaming by the side of a clear, beautiful brook and letting the mind go back and back, remembering. Such a practice leads you to training the mind to turn inward until you become better acquainted with yourself. You will see yourself as you were through many lives. Such training also enables you to look ahead, century after century, life after life, into coming time. The looking back is memory. The looking forward is creation. Even though we create our future as we move forward into it, nevertheless, the patterns are established by what has preceded us, our actions, our past. Thus, we can see well into our own future by learning to pause and think. Best of all, we learn to see the purpose in things that have more recently happened, experiences met, and why, and wheretofore of past lives, as pathways that lead to the present. There is often, for many people, an inborn desire to remain on earth as long as possible. Every day spent there increases our time over here. Many who seem to have outlived their usefulness still cling to earth life, and often one wonders what God has left them there so long. They grow old, become senile, they suffer, yet they remain. There will come a time when the elderly, the suffering and terminally ill will have a more dignified choice about the length of their lives. In thoughtful concert with their doctors, their loved ones, and their own sense of divine will, they will have more choices than to simply pray for the release of death to come, and this is for the good. Just as the time of birth, our parents, our life lessons are chosen by each soul with the guidance and support of the higher realms, so the time of leaving the earth plane will become more open to conscious and thoughtful choice. Then, in combination of each soul's will and the divine will, when their earth cycle has come full round, will they be caught in the cosmic tide and carried into inner planes, the interim between births. Just as there is more than one life, there is also more than one death. There is the death with which we are familiar. After the average pilgrim loses the physical body, he or she dwells in borderland in the astral form. This form is composed of the more negative aspects of the being which has expressed during the earth incarnation. The pilgrim then ascends into highland as the astral form becomes purified. And what is the second death? When the lower forces are exhausted, a second death occurs. though it would be better to say a second change or transition occurs, unless you are exceedingly young in evolution. The astral form gradually disintegrates. When all the astral atoms have dispersed, you find yourself able to depart Hyland for Summerlin, the higher realm. That is, your form becomes increasingly vaporous and etherealized. In Summerlin, you learn how to overcome the undesirable thought forces created during physical life, after which you develop innate spiritual powers with which to mold energies into practical and spiritual purposes. Eventually, you depart Summerlin for the causal realm of paradise. With each graduation, you could leave behind a body shell which gradually decomposes, as does the discarded physical shell. Death then only becomes continuous stages of transition or change. The length of time a pilgrim remains on the inner planes before incarnating from the causal realm to earth varies with individuals. The young soul who has experienced fewer earth lives returns sooner. Struggling souls return quickly. The initiate may also choose an early return if he or she is engaged in a spiritual mission which requires a physical form to complete. As the soul develops, each stay on the astral becomes more brief, while Summerlin existence extends. The average person may spend anywhere from 1 to 1,000 years, sometimes longer. The initiate may remain thousands of years, selecting the most propitious time and circumstances for his or her return. There are unnumbered souls over here who are not familiar with rebirth, just as on earth. They have no idea that they will ever incarnate again. This is especially true among the vast number of traditional Christians who are never taught of the cosmic rhythm and with whom the idea of rebirth is most unpopular. They pass into my world with the fixed notion of going to heaven and remaining there eternally. To them, that is the only logical interpretation of eternal life. They cannot conceive that the cyclic influx of passing in and out of matter in various material forms is also eternal life, always progressive and eternally upward. Those who refuse to accept rebirth continue to hold to this misconception until the tide of the eternal rhythm gathers them to its heart, and the natural cycle brings them again into gross matter. How is right knowledge utilized on all planes? Those who follow the religions most practiced in India and the Orient are far more apt to retain memory of the inner planes and previous lives, for they pass out of earth life fully expecting to incarnate again. Such souls prepare for it throughout their long journey on the inner planes. They train their minds and hearts toward remembering life on the inner planes when they do incarnate again. They also endeavor to choose the continent of their birth and their parents. They will particularly choose parents familiar with spiritual and mystic concepts and with the idea of rebirth. It might astound you to realize how many children are born remembering their lives on the inner planes. These memories are crushed because, having been born into the Western predominantly Christian civilization, they are taught from the beginning that their souls were newly created at birth, that there is only one life on earth, and that there is, forever after, eternal bliss or eternal damnation. Such teachings quickly blot out the memory of higher planes. Those who voice their memories are frequently scolded and punished for being too imaginative or downright falsifiers. When the complete idea of immortality seeps into mass consciousness, and especially is it needed in the Christian world, then really worthwhile spiritual enlightenment will follow. The goal is truly to grasp the idea of immortal life and make it an integral part of one's consciousness, to forget the notion of eternal damnation and live accepting the rhythm of life cycles, birth and rebirth, with the goal always being liberation. That is the teaching which is the most liberating, the most empowering of each soul, as well as being that which actually occurs. Once such a concept becomes habitual daily thinking, the trials and tribulations of this one life assume less importance. one realizes these things shall pass. You begin to think in terms of eternity. You seek to create the best life possible, to lengthen your stay on the inner planes before you return, and to make the most of talents developed in the present life. You begin ultimately to think of yourself without beginning or end. You have not lived 1,000 years or 1,000,000. You always were. You learn to rest your consciousness in the eternity domain and watch the mountains and valleys of your life made straight. Why we reincarnate. As has already been taught and will be mentioned again only briefly now, the peace and beauty of the heaven planes does not stimulate the soul to work toward the unity of mind, emotions, and spirit, the carrying out of tasks requiring the qualities of courage, perseverance, fortitude, determination. For the average person in Etheria, there is no incentive for striving toward attainment of soul qualities. Because of this, there is a need for mortal birth where opportunities for soul growth are provided through the many challenges involved in physical plane existence. Can character be perfected without suffering? Those who have gained the needed depth of character, who have suffered, who have unfolded the necessary spiritual perception, such souls find complete happiness and joy in the perpetual peace of Summerland and paradise. No need have they to return to earth's challenges, conflicts, temptations. They have graduated from earth's school and are groomed for the celestial college in more harmonious scenes. They may, however, choose to return to earth to help others, to continue their own growth, to be with dear friends and loved ones on earth once again, and for other reasons previously spoken of. The generation of souls. Has the quota of souls been filled for this life wave? Explain the generation of souls as opposed to there being a new soul born with each earthly birth, we asked. And Burton replied, no newly generated souls sent down from monads on the monadic plane will enter the life wave of humanity presently progressing on earth. But without going into details which would carry us far afield, the generation of a new soul comes about in this way. The beginning of a soul's existence is the result of the balanced blending of all the divine properties of the infinite being. It is as if a star of divine life and light was released from the divine source and projected to the monadic plane to become a divine monad. This offspring, this tiny spark of light, is aflame with divinity, but is as yet in a state of unawareness. From the Godhead, this tiny spark of light is projected from the monad, descending through the planes and becoming the unawakened oversoul. A portion of the oversoul is then projected into the world of matter as a soul, to inhabit some form on a planet just beginning to evolve forms fit to be individually ensouled by a spark of divinity. Thus begins the evolutionary round. The soul journeys back and forth as various personalities from the world of matter to the causal plane, swinging like a pendulum from the innermost universe to the outermost, and returning from the outer to the inner. Each incarnation reaping experiences which, absorbed by the soul and the oversoul, evolves another brick in the future house not made with hands, the causal form. Every soul expresses itself through matter, either in this system of worlds or some other, until it eventually matures as a conscious, victorious creator in its own right, willingly subjected to divine law. Thus, no soul is created by a man and woman on earth at the time of human birth. They only create the form which the soul is to inhabit. The soul first proceeds downward into matter from the monad, which was projected from celestial beings in the Godhead. It ensouls a form in the field of matter, each form being nobler than the last. A soul can never inhabit a structural organism lower than the human, for only the human form is capable of giving expression to the divine soul. It is the presence of the soul within that gives each human its humanness. The soul is the very breath of the infinite being in human form. It is this inherited deific life which gives people eternal individuality. Thus, the soul germ exists in spirit before it can be expressed in matter. Of what are humans the offspring? Even though the first form a new soul inhabits in its advent upon any Earth-type planet may appear little higher than an ape, we are no more an ape's actual offspring than is the dog or the cat. The human being is unquestionably the result of a direct act of divine creative power. The monad is the highest possible representative of spirit with its spiritual potential not yet attained. Nevertheless, the monad's projected soul always possesses in germ form the divine powers which ultimately will unfold even as the acorn holds inviolate the germ of the future oak. The inner plane life. On the inner planes, there is time for getting acquainted with one's self. On earth, one faces the busyness of day-to-day living, scurrying to meet daily needs. Here, having such needs provided, one automatically learns how to spend leisure time more profitably. Though there are vast duties, nevertheless, you always become better acquainted with yourself. Those who realize that in some far-off future they will come back to Earth will seek an awareness of lessons learned during previous lives, not detailed knowledge of who they were, but a sensing of what lessons were learned and what talents were unfolded. They will synthesize these myriad experiences, stimulating and making practical the talents previously unfolded. Coordinating our experiences points us to a shining destiny in the future. Such accumulated knowledge creates considerable power for the next incarnation. Those who are evolved guide and control the rhythm which draws them back to rebirth. Others, not understanding the law, are drawn back by the irresistible force of the rhythmic cosmic tide. Others, longing to return quickly, are reborn without fully understanding the talents and knowledge of even their last life. They grow restless in the inner world as they grew tired of earth life. They wish to feel again the sensations of the human form, to experience the thrills and pressures of matter. Seldom are they held back. Such homesickness for earth usually evokes a soul response, even though it is unwise to return until the soul has fully garnered the knowledge gained in previous incarnations, tied it into the karma of the past life, and gained a perspective of what the next life should be. To do so robs the soul of the spiritual energy and intuition necessary for a successful or progressive next life. Regardless of where one finds oneself in the objective consciousness of earth life or over here in the subjective consciousness of spirit, the principal lesson to understand is that the object of it all is to learn how to live. Life and consciousness go on, whether here or there. It is just as important to learn how to live here as there. Eternity is a long time, and each of us has eternity in which to grow to godhood. Therefore, whatever your present experiences, remember that the entire purpose of being there at all is not in whether you manifest success or failure, but how you react to the challenges life presents. The challenge, the learning, is the goal, not success itself. What is the purpose of life? The struggles, the missteps of this incarnation may be the most valuable part of your overall experience. Without hurrying to attain it, always keep in the background of your consciousness that spiritual progression is the purpose of life. On earth, a lifetime can seem relatively long. From the eternity domain, it becomes relatively brief. In Etheria, we behold the entire sweep of the cycle from the time of our birth, our death, our entrance into the inner worlds, and our progression up through the spheres, until time for another rebirth. That is when the cycle has gone full round. Of that round, the earth life is only a small measure, but each great new cycle begins another entirely new journey for the soul. The outcome of the journey is determined by how we handle its shortest phase, our earth trip. As has been said, young souls often impatiently interrupt the journey to return to the arena of matter long before the cycle is spent. The enlightened, whose consciousness searches for more light, dispels all thoughts of Earth's attractions. They assimilate completely the talents, knowledge, and wisdom accumulated during their past incarnation and those preceding it, regardless the time in Earth years and lifetimes this requires. How do we acquire heavenly wealth? Some may think, why on earth would anyone ever want to return? But I have found that Earth has attractions which may now be discernible to you, which may not now be discernible to you. And since your wealth and happiness over here may be limited because you attained little spiritually during your lifetime, you may grow weary of such limitations. Earth offers many opportunities, even among its dismal problems, for there is much there to enjoy and love and hope for. You must have said, if I had my life to live over again, I certainly would do so and so, or certainly would not do so and so. You more than likely will have your chance. There is probably not one among us who will not at some time wish to return for a fresh opportunity, a new beginning. Until the soul merges with the divine life stream of the Godhead itself, you may not wish to experience an endless existence in the inner worlds any more than you wish to endure foreverness on your earthly plane. Think of rebirth as rhythms of cosmic life, with every outgoing into the earth sphere unfolding as an opportunity to build a boat for a longer cruise. Each future life is better simply because when the soul returns, it brings with it more capabilities for overcoming obstacles which faced it previously. The soul is stronger, more intuitive because of the conditions encountered in the heaven world. The soul grows through heavenly happiness in a way that differs from the growth through the challenges and difficulties often faced in the earth world. Through the journey of purgatory, midlands, highlands, summerland, and paradise, each soul develops and grows according to its individual needs. In Summerland, evil and sorrow are impossible. Every being in Summerland is enjoying the highest spiritual bliss of which he or she is capable. In Summerland, each inhabitant is limited only by his or her own capacity to aspire. After such an experience in heaven, the soul can never again view earth life as it did before. Ideas of happiness undergo vast transformations. The soul becomes aware of that which it is truly in search, realizing that whatever goals one seeks on earth must incorporate the spiritual. Those who return without such a concept are those whose stay in Summerland was clouded by their own limited perceptions. Not in entire forgetfulness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. Wordsworth. For those of you who experience heaven in all its stupendous wonder, life will never again be the same. Earth, either here or on earth, there ever will ride in the depths of the subconscious a lasting remembrance of true beauty, far transcending all that you have ever known. The remembrance of such an experience will never leave you. Whatever ambitions may call, once you have returned to earth, never will you be able to completely forget the sensations of life in the heaven world, for it is an experience beyond all human words, this inexpressible delight in the celestial world. Here, one dwells under the true radiance of God's great consciousness. True, on earth one finds a shadow of divinity, a divine beauty in the trees, the flowers, the landscapes, and in love. Why are all our aspirations not fulfilled on earth? In the heaven plains we reap, in the earth plains we sow. Remember the happy reaping. In our next life, we shall sow seeds of happiness, seeds of beautiful thoughts and aspirations, which may come to fulfillment on earth, but which sometimes may not because the dreams are beyond earth's giving, or because our debt of karma may prevent their full realization. Training in meditation. Can you teach us concerning meditation, we asked. And Burton replied, training in some forms of meditation helps form habitually good thinking. No thought remains ineffectual. Thoughts rapidly crystallize into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstances. Thoughts indirectly, yet surely, shape your circumstances. Right and beautiful thoughts produce usefulness and beauty. Fear of a disease can produce that disease. Worry and anxiety demoralize the entire body, and chronic negative thoughts can shatter the nervous system and poison the blood. Other forms of meditation help the meditator to detach from one's thoughts, thus, ultimately, having the same effect as the first form. One is not so attached to one's passing thoughts or feelings, but rather is focused on the breath, learning to live in the present moment rather than in regret of the past and fear of the future. You are able to go into the silence, become one with it, and learn from that deep source of spiritual knowledge without the distraction of thought. Fear, doubt, and worry are small things within themselves, but so is a match. And dropped in the middle of a forest, however, it creates havoc, consuming great portions of beautiful woodland. Fear, doubt, and worry are usually focused on future occurrences. They stretch out their ominous thought tentacles like the arms of an octopus to encircle all your activities. You are literally what you think, feel, and do. Your character is the sum of all your thoughts. Your every act springs from a hidden seed of your thought. Your act is the fruit or the blossom of your seed thought. A thought, oft repeated, can become an act. An act, oft repeated, becomes a habit. A habit, oft repeated, becomes a character, and a settled character molds the very destiny of the person. Thus, you are indeed the master of your own destiny and the captain of your fate. You are both mind and heart, and with these two aspects of your being, you weave the inner garment of character and the outer garment of circumstances. What the unenlightened person will create in ignorance and darkness, the enlightened Astarian will overcome, destroy, and rebuild into a temple of light. Working with the mind. When we discuss the mind and mental power in these lessons, what we are really speaking of is the mind unified with the emotions and with the spirit. If we are talking about someone on earth, we are talking about those three aspects unified with the physical body as well. So we are not suggesting that the mind is separate from these other aspects of ourselves, nor should it be. The integrated, unified person who uses the higher mind has harmonized all these aspects in healthy, positive, spiritualized ways. The mind, then, is used to bring all the aspects into fruition. So when we refer to the mind or to mental power, it is in this sense that it is meant. What underlies all action? Mind uses exactly the same energy to think good thoughts or evil thoughts. It is not the energy which is either good or bad. It is the use to which you put the energy that sets into motion a chain reaction of constructive or destructive thoughts, words, and deeds. Money in itself is neither good nor evil, possessing no qualities within itself. It is used for good or evil as is motivated by mind. Thought is the power behind action. Concentration is the control of that power. Everything in this world comes to pass through mental concentration. Mental concentration at its zenith is called samadhi. Through mental concentration, you control your life. The inventor brings his or her dreams into reality. The scientist creates new discoveries for the good of humankind. The historian recaptures the spirit and meaning of the past. The engineer, who receives a new and untested piece of machinery, sets it into operation. The machinery is observed, listened to, gauged, and estimated. If it fails to function properly, it is torn down piece by piece to be analyzed. Each unit is tested separately and then together, so that gradually the engineer discovers the basic fault and adjusts the machine to produce a perfect mechanism in which every part of the complex device functions in harmony. What builds mind? You build your mind machine the same way, by utilizing opportunities for good. The earnest Astarian will first meditate upon his or her individual characteristics and abilities to determine which are good and which could benefit from change in some way. Those which are constructive and helpful, you strive to build into your character. Those which are harmful and which impede your spiritual progress, you attempt to discard or shape into something more positive. Self-analysis must be honest and frank. To overlook a fault and gloss over it with vanity is of little help in rebuilding a character. Self-analysis and the mere act of learning how to concentrate upon so familiar a subject as yourself is difficult. It must always be accomplished with not only honesty, but self-respect and esteem as well. Judging yourself, blaming yourself is not a way to change. Building upon your strengths, nurturing yourself, and working with yourself in positive ways to change is the best possible method. The ebb and flow of the mind. The Buddha compared the mind of a disciple learning to concentrate with a young calf being trained to pasture. Accustomed to absolute freedom, it rebels against any discipline. Tied to a post, it runs around struggling to break loose with no organized pattern or purpose. But invariably, the calf discovers that when the rope reaches a certain length, it is forced to a sudden stop. After a restless cavorting and struggling, the calf always exhausts itself and usually returns to lie down by the post. In the first attempts to concentrate or meditate, the disciple is much like the calf. You choose your meditation object and, like the calf tied to the post, your mind struggles against discipline, becomes distracted, and strives to break away. For example, selecting a certain subject, let us say love, you set out to hold your mind steadily upon your chosen subject. Suddenly, your thoughts turn to some incident which happened yesterday, and you follow a train of thought which leads into a distant and unrelated realm. Your original thread of thought dropped. Then you realize with a start that you intended to meditate upon love. So once again, you take up your subject, and perhaps some time elapses before you realize that you have long since been dreaming about another distant and unrelated idea. You return to your original thought. This happens over and over until the mind finally, through impatient training, learns to hold on to a desired subject. This is the value of constant practice and meditation. It trains you to focus on or become one with one line of thought as long as you possibly can. This, in turn, adjusts the mind to a rhythm of perfect performance. In this way, you learn to focus completely and wholly upon any particular subject, whether it be a financial matter, a problem at work, or spiritual progress. Why is mind control so important? The trained mind, becoming absorbed in its chosen subject, automatically contacts a cosmic power to help it gain its goals. Such a trained mind learns to discipline the rhythm of thinking and to veer from one subject to another without becoming lost in vague hopes and anxieties. Mental focus finally becomes habitual so that you are able to manifest the best that is within you at all times and under all circumstances. You become automatically preoccupied with good, which automatically frustrates inertia, delay, negativity, hopelessness, hatred, and so forth. It is important to remember that when, during meditation, your being is focused on one aspect of life, such as joy, This allows you to become more closely connected with that aspect. As the mind wanders to other things, and then you bring it back, this is not a negative occurrence. The focus, the drifting, and the return are all part of the meditative process, and thus are all useful. This is how we build spiritual muscles, to value all aspects of the process, to avoid berating ourselves when we are in the drifting and then the returning part of the process, but to see it all as positive aspects of the meditative process. From this place of acceptance, the entire process becomes useful to us and a way of connecting more fully with our divine source. Burton's word to one-worlders. There may be some among Astarians who have no interest in life in Etheria, believing that one world at a time is enough with which to struggle. To such a seeker, it should be discernible that to the exact degree you learn how this earth plane differs from the other planes surrounding it, so does your perspective orient you to face earth life more wisely. Once one understands the earth to be only one sphere of all the worlds, the problems of earth should not be so overwhelming. It is the one who supposes earth to be the only life and who believes success or failure in it to be the most important thing in the cosmos, who finally frets the heart out and wears down vitality worrying about the outcome. Is mature judgment possible without right knowledge? Once one's mind encompasses the whole of life, including the earth and the first three spiritual spheres, and considers one's life to include not only that of earth, but also of working one's way up through even higher spheres, only then does one acquire a philosophical tranquility. One neither becomes over-elated by success nor crushed by seeming defeat. Rather, one responds to all vicissitudes and prosperities with mature judgment and acceptance. 3 great points to advance soul consciousness for the average person. It is a truth that the average person seems to struggle with understanding 3 of the great points of living. First, the average person has no conscious awareness of why they have come into incarnation. Second, they do not know and usually seem not even to care what life is all about, the entire purpose for their coming and the meaning behind it all. Third, they have acquired no reliable assurance of life after death. Assuredly, the one who has sought answers to this quest has recognized a considerable change in his or her life and the surrounding world. Thus, if the masses could obtain the answers, every human life could be lived with greater intelligence, deeper connection with the divine ebb and flow of the greater life, and peaceful assurance of an ongoing existence. The struggles, the ups and downs of earth life would be better understood. They would assume their rightful place in an enlarged concept. The limitations of one's world would expand immeasurably. It would no longer seem to be earth only. One's world would include earth, the astral, the mental, and the causal planes. And one's life would embrace not only the first step, earth life, but life up through all the planes to paradise. Humanity as a whole must grasp the understanding that life involves living not only on earth, but in all the worlds and planes beyond this one. When the masses can accept that life on earth is only one small phase of eternal progress, then life on earth will assume an entirely different concept and meaning. Wisdom is attained by degrees. One should realize one exists on this inner core earth plane as the beginning of a long cycle through all the higher planes. Thus, this lowest plane, life, comes into its proper focus. One understands better its ordeals, its disappointments, and how one must profit from them. Each misfortune becomes not a problem, but a challenge to be met. conquered, and overcome. On which plane is discipline learned? It is in the world of matter that you learn integration and focus of body, mind, heart, and spirit, else you can hardly expect to manipulate their equivalent properly on higher spheres. It is true that until the recent past, a powerful organized theology has all but repressed such teachings. But such censorship is now being ignored and transcended by more and more people. In the face of both science and mysticism, this theology is giving ground to new discoveries and new concepts. This brings to mind the war between church and science that developed when Galileo's telescope offered astronomical evidence that the earth was round and that it circled the sun. The church was only a temporary winner. Censorship, intolerance, and grasping for power gave way to truth because people, hearts, and minds could not be contained. So it is in this present time. Your built-in telescope is revealing that your own inner world is not flat. Your life is not held to one flat dimension, but like the earth, circles in a cosmic cycle. You come to realize that your life is not confined to a flat three-dimensional existence, but rather you are an immortal being traveling a cosmic cycle which involves the fourth dimension through infinitudes past human comprehension. The world of earth, astral, mind, and soul is all integrated into one gigantic whole, and this earth life is only one small step of the journey. Once the majority of humankind accepts these nobler concepts, society cannot help but be altered for the better. It is just as important for your mind to accept an enlarged world including earth, astral, summerland, and paradise, as it is for you to know that the earth is not flat and that it circles the sun, not the other way around. The challenge faced by science in the coming century will be to discover and admit the reality of many planes of life, various gradations of ether, and further to discover that each gradation is capable of sustaining form and mind. Thus, the one world becomes not a small Earth planet whirling its way through space, but a gigantic laboratory of human evolution from the human being to macrocosmic divinity. Until we grasp the picture of the composition of these enshrouding globes, we cannot grasp the point of why we are here in this hardcore center, beginning a whole new step in our evolutionary process from the human to the divine. Do I learn elsewhere than just here on Earth? Once your mind grasps this enlarged concept, you recognize the Earth as the plane from which you begin another long evolutionary journey. That is, you enroll in elementary school here and complete your college education on the planes of causal life. Grasping this idea, it becomes easier for the mind to understand why the soul must return to the world of matter more than once. Old mental grooves must be remolded in the mind of the masses, and it takes a bit of doing to ingrain these reflexes, new reflexes, deeply enough to remain in practical effect. Although many millions are beginning to embrace the concept, many others as yet do not. These souls find themselves returning one life after another until such understanding becomes clear. There is really no such place or no such thing as eternity. Eternity is the present moment, perpetually enduring, always and forever now, expanding. Thus, we need not die to experience eternal life. It is always with us. You need not die to become immortal. You are immortal now, by reason of having been so created by the great architect. You do not die into eternal life. Rather, you enter the octave of consciousness for which you are spiritually eligible, depending upon your soul development and the knowledge you acquire about the divine laws of the cosmos during your earthly career. That ends lesson 20. That was a good one. I love these. Well, we don't have yet the September blessing, but we will end with some blessings from Earlyne. How's that? Okay, okay. So go ahead and just be receptive. You can just place your palms facing up. To all those that we have invoked to, Master beloved, who has committed to us the swift and solemn trust of life, since we know not what a day may bring, but only that the hour for serving thee is always present. Teach us how to be constantly alert to the claims of thy will and the call to service. Lay to rest by the persuasion of thy spirit our doubts and fears. Consecrate with thy presence the way our feet should go, that our humblest work may radiate. Lift us above unrighteous anger and mistrust into faith sublime. May we be modest in our times of wealth, patient in the hours of our adversity, serene in our disappointments, and humble in our moments of shining achievements. In all things, draw us toward thy perfection, that all the world may see in us thy radiant reflection, and keep us ever mindful that we shine for thee. May the rewards of self-fulfillment, spiritual wisdom, and an unfolded consciousness attend all your efforts as you grow and progress in the ways of life. May your life journey continue in the goal of supreme realization. May you all be one with the great consciousness which is God. Just mentally repeat, I am one with the great consciousness which is God. I am one with the great consciousness which is God. I am one with the great consciousness which is God. I am one with the pure white light. I am surrounded, enfolded, embraced by the pure white light. Only good can come to me. Only good shall go from me. We give thanks. We give thanks. We give thanks. May these blessings physicalize spiritually, mentally, emotionally, energetically, physically, on all levels, into every cell, the space surrounding every cell. Tatatso, tatatso, tatatso. Namaste, precious, precious souls. Thank you so much for joining us for the Book of Life. We'll see you tomorrow for the blessing of the prayer petitions. Have a beautiful day, morning, night, wherever you are. If it's your evening, sweet dreams. Enjoy your Labor Day, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care. Namaste.